So I was sort of pondering the other day, right? I was just sitting down to myself. I was just thinking about life, you know. I feel like most of my videos or my video ideas come from me just pondering to myself, you know, thinking about life, thinking about my life. And I just come on here and just speak on them, right? Especially these outdoor videos, right? But anyways, I was thinking about life the other day, and one thing that came to my mind, and one thing that I observed, I realized were the relationships that I've had, right? And when I say relationships, now I mean just in all facets of life, right? Not only romantic relationships, but all relationships that I've had, friendships, you know, all of that, right? And one thing that I observed, and this is consistent, I'm pretty sure you guys will probably notice it in your lives as well, is that some connections just fall off with people randomly, right? You know, I can sort of look back at people in my life, people who I was genuinely close with, right? Who I had a really tight bond with. At one point, I looked at these people and I said to myself, I could see me and this person being friends for the rest of my life, right? Or for the rest of our lives. Genuinely, that's how I felt in the moment. But I sort of look back at those relationships and, they no longer exist, or they don't exist to a certain degree, or to the certain degree that they were before. And it's not so much that something bad happened. It's not so much that we had a fallout or an argument, so on and so forth. Some of these relationships that I've had with these people, they just randomly fell off out of nowhere, right? No arguments, no conflicts. They just fell off. And I began to realize that I really just outgrew these people, right? They were perfect for the stage of my life that I was in. But me growing and me continuously growing, those relationships had to be shed because those people were no longer in alignment with me, right? And I outgrew them. And I think one thing we don't talk about quite enough is that very often growth can cause you to be alone. Very often growth can cause you to lose bonds, lose connections with people who you never really thought it was possible to lose connections with these people, right? And it's like I said before, it's not so much that something bad happens, not so much that you guys had a fallout. It's just that the connection is not the same anymore. It's just that the bond isn't the same, right? And as a result, you can't connect with these people. One thing that I've noticed about me, and I don't know, this might be true for you guys as well watching this, but I can't force something that doesn't feel authentic anymore, especially a connection or relationship with a person. I can't force it if it doesn't feel authentic. And I think I got to a point in my life in which I sort of looked at certain people who I genuinely connected with, and I just didn't feel that connection. I didn't feel like we looked at the world in a similar way. I felt like we didn't have similar interests. I felt like, talking to these people were sort of kind of like forcing a connection or forcing something that wasn't meant to be, right? And I just couldn't do it. And it got to a point in which I just stopped communicating with these people randomly, and there was a point in which I was trying to sort of reconnect things and try to see if we had some mutual ground, so on and so forth. And a lot of these people, I'm sure they felt some type of way, knowing that we don't have these bonds anymore, knowing that we don't connect as we used to. But I just couldn't bring myself to do it. I couldn't. I feel like I'm the type of person in which I prefer to be alone. I prefer to be by myself if the connection with people don't doesn't feel authentic, right? And I'm the type of person I prefer to be alone. If me and a person, or if I don't have people around me who I genuinely connect with, right? I'm just that type of person. Because everything in my life, I've noticed this recently, you know, when it comes on to my life in general, all that I crave in life is authenticity. All that I crave is authentic connections. Even when it comes on to, the career or field that I want to go into, it has to feel aligned. It has to feel like it's me. It has to feel like, it fits me and fits what I truly desire, right? And it goes to, relationships, right? I feel like if something isn't genuine, or if something is coming towards me and it isn't genuine anymore, it doesn't fit me, then I can no longer entertain it, right? It can't be a part of my life anymore. And there was a point in my life in which I forced things, right? I tried to rekindle old flames. I tried to go back to things that were in my past. And the more I did this, the more I realized that it just felt like my soul was being ripped apart, right? I felt soulless. And I think a lot of us, we're guilty of this. We're guilty of trying to go back to our past. We're guilty of trying to rekindle old flames. We're guilty of trying to, in a sense, make things like they once were, right? That's something I'm definitely guilty of, or I used to be guilty of, I should say. Trying to make something that no longer fits me fit me. And I think when it comes down to life, you have to be comfortable letting things go when they no longer fit you. When it comes on to life, when it comes on to moving forward, when it comes on to growth, you're going to stop communicating with certain people because you're just not on the same vibration as them and they're not on the same vibration as you. You two, or you and these people, have grown so far apart that it's impossible to have a genuine relationship with them. It's impossible for them to be, what they once were to you, right? It's just impossible. I don't even want to get into the metaphysics of things because I like to keep things a bit practical. But you have to understand that the law of attraction, the law of vibration, it connects everything, right? It connects us all. This is why, you just genuinely just stop talking to certain people randomly. You stop connecting to certain people randomly because you've outgrown them, right? Outgrown them, right? Especially if you're the type of person who's always trying to move forward. You're the type of person who's always trying to grow, who's always trying to get better, who's always trying to evolve. A lot of the people who are in your life right now, who've been in your life, you're just going to stop speaking to them because you've outgrown them, right? And you have to be comfortable with that. You have to be comfortable with the fact that a lot of the people that you even have right now in your life, one day the relationship that you have with them won't be the same. You have to be very comfortable with that. Because when you're moving forward in your life, when you're growing, you're going to some degree shed the weight of your past. And that includes people. That includes some of the deepest bonds that you've had. You're going to have to leave these people behind. And very often you trying to hold on to old things, you trying to hold on to old bonds. Those old bonds are going to pull you back into the same old world or into the same world that you're trying to escape. Those old bonds can keep you stuck in the past, right? Very often, let's say you're the type of person who used to do certain things, right? Engage in certain things, and you're trying to make a positive change. You're trying to, in a sense, implement some sort of positivity or health or well-being in your life, right? And very often, you know, you're trying to get away from the people who you once connected with. And you going back to these people, or you making a decision to go back to these people, are going to bring you back into that same old life, into the same old habits, into the same old patterns, right? And there was a point in my life in which certain people who I used to be close with, they would sort of hit me up and they would sort of say, "Oh, you've changed, you haven't been the same. I feel like, you're trying to avoid me, so on and so forth, right? And it's not even so much that I was trying to avoid them intentionally. It was more so that there's a part of me that just didn't, and this is gonna sound like an asshole, or I'm gonna sound, like an ass, but I just didn't see the benefit of having them in my life anymore, if that makes sense, right? And I've kind of felt sort of guilty. I felt like I was doing something wrong for making the decision to leave these people behind. And I realized that I'm not a bad person for doing that. I realized that not everyone can come with me. Not everyone can, I guess, accompany me at every stage of my life. And some people I just have to leave behind, and that's okay. That truly is okay. It's okay to leave people behind. It's okay to not have close connections with the people that you once had close connections with. All of that is okay. I think a lot of us cling to the past so much. We attach ourselves so much to the past, and we find it hard to move forward because we're simply trying to hold on. We're trying to resist change without recognizing that change is a necessary part of this thing that we call life. Without recognizing that every stage of our lives is gonna what's the word I'm looking for? Every stage of our lives is gonna require us. That's the word I'm looking for. Every stage of our lives is gonna require us to make some sort of change, right? Whether that is changing the people that have been around you or making some sort of change within yourself, right? Every part of our lives requires some level of change, and you have to be comfortable with that change. You have to be comfortable with knowing that things are not going to be the same with certain people. You have to be comfortable with knowing that even, when it comes on to a lot of things that are a part of your life right now, change is going to require you to let them go, and that's okay. You have to make room for new things to come into your life. You have to make room for new people who are more aligned and on the same vibration as the new you. You have to make room for those people. You have to make room for new opportunities. You have to make room for new things in general just to come into your life. And they can't come into your life the right way if you keep holding on to what no longer serves you. If you keep holding on to what is no longer in alignment with you, right? And that's something that I had to realize. And it's hard to let old things go. It's hard to let things go that no longer serve you, right? Not only is that guilt going to be there, but that nostalgia, right? That feeling of, damn, me and this person used to really have this tight bond. I used to be able to go to this person and we could be able to talk for hours. I really felt connected with this person. But the new me, right, just no longer feels that connection with them, right? I no longer bond with them over the same things. We no longer have the same interests. I just don't feel connected with this person. And you have to understand that that's okay. I think a part of recreating a new you sort of requires you to let yourself go. And what I mean by that is let the concept of or this cage that you've created, that you've identified as you go, you have to let it go, right? I think a lot of us are guilty of sort of clinging on to a certain identity to say, this is me, this has to be me. I'm this type of person. I have to keep being this type of person without recognizing that who you are is always changing. Who you are is always evolving, right? This damn fly, right? The you that you sort of cling on to as you is always changing, right? And it's about going with that change. It's about going with the flow of that change. It's about recognizing that every step of your life demands a new you. Every step of your life requires you to step into a new you, right? In order for you to be one with life, in order for you to get the best out of life, life requires you to be comfortable with change, both within yourself and in terms of the relationships in your life, right? Life requires that change. You're going to lose people, quote unquote, lose people. You're not going to connect with some people like you used to, and that's okay. I think the memories, the good times, all the good moments, they still live on in our hearts. They're still a part of our hearts. And as long as they're in our hearts, then we'll always cherish them, right? We always truly will. And even when it comes on to the relationships of our past, all of them serve the purpose in terms of getting us where we need to be. When it comes on to life, life is about relationships. First and foremost, with yourself. Like I said, the first and the most important one is with yourself, but life is ultimately about relationships. And relationships are the very thing that, in a sense, allows us to grow, right? Our growth is facilitated through relationships. I need to get like a full holder. Yeah, our growth is facilitated through relationships. And when one relationship no longer serves you, and when I say serve you, what I mean is that relationship can no longer facilitate necessary growth that you need in your life. It is going to fall off, and it's meant to fall off, right? Even with the closest people, or with the people that you were the closest with, it is going to fall off at some point. And you have to get so comfortable with that change. You have to understand that that is a part of life. And the more you try to hold on to it, the more you're going to pull yourself back into the same old you. And when it comes on to life, you have to always keep moving forward. You have to always keep evolving, right? Evolution is necessary, and evolution is what this life is about, right? This life is about growth and being comfortable with change, knowing that some people are just meant to be, you know, a part of a season of your life is the very thing that is gonna, lead to you continuing to evolve, right? So yeah, get comfortable with knowing that you're gonna lose bonds that you never thought you would. You're gonna lose connections that you never thought you would. And sometimes it's not even a specific reason why things don't work out with this person. Even when it comes down to romantic relationships, a lot of people are trying to hold on to romantic relationships that no longer are in alignment with them, right? That's a big thing that I notice in this life. Many romantic relationships, you know, are meant to fall off. You're always growing, that person is always growing. And when y'all grow apart, it's because you're no longer in alignment. And the new stage that you're meant to go into requires you being comfortable letting this person go. But life, and one of the most uncomfortable things about life, is that it demands us to make change, whether within ourselves, or in our relationships, external relationships. And you have to be comfortable with that change. And no longer keep holding on to what no longer serves you, no longer keep going back to your old world, because your new world, or the world that you're trying to create, requires new relationships, new bonds, new connections, and that's natural when it comes out to life. So yeah, that's it. That's all I had to say. Um, Keep moving forward. Get recognize that change, growth, evolution is gonna cause you to lose certain bonds, and it's very hard to accept. It's very hard to come to terms with. But the sooner you accept it, the less you suffer, because most of our suffering, truly does come from resistance to change. Most of our suffering comes from a lack of understanding and a lack of realizing that life is ultimately about change. And the more we can accept that life is about change, and the more we go with the flow of change, the more at peace we will be, right? And the more things will be in our favor, the more we accept that change is truly a natural part of life. So yeah, stop dwelling on that person. Yeah, it's easier said than done. Stop trying to hold on to what was just meant to be a part of your life. And if the connection is no longer there, if you feel like there's an invisible force pulling you away from this person, that force is taking you away from that person and is trying to lead you into the next stage of your life, next connections of your life, next bonds of your life that are meant to help you grow even more and help you to become a better version of yourself even more. And the sooner you can let go, the sooner you can embrace that change, embrace that, you know, loss of a connection, quote unquote, loss of a connection, because everything does exist in our heart, anyways. The sooner you can embrace that loss of of connection, the more at peace you will be, and the more you will grow. So yeah, that's it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you go outdoors. My doctor said I have low vitamin D, which is kind of crazy because I try to get as much sun as possible, but it makes sense with my work schedule, so on and so forth. So yeah, probably gonna stay in this sun a little bit longer and just relax. Take care of yourselves. Hope y'all have a good day, and I will see y'all in the next one. Peace and blessings.